Hey Broncos fans, we're going to get into all the moves the Broncos have done here in the last 24 hours or so in just a minute. But before we get into that, you've seen some of those moves, so get down in the comments section and grade the Broncos free agency so far. A, B, C, D, or F, we're going back to school here. I want to know from you guys. I'm going to be asking you guys a lot of questions about what the Broncos have done over the last day or so, so be sure to get your votes in the comments section. Grade the Broncos free agency so far, and let's jump right into today's video. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. I'm your host, Sam Brown, and today we're jumping into some Broncos free agency news. It's a bonanza this week, and the Broncos have gotten to work very quickly, and you've seen the news to kick off the morning, so we'll jump right in. I wore my blue polo to match the blue box here. Mike Kliss with 9 Sports. The Broncos will exercise the $7 million guarantee option on Von Miller's $18 million salary for 2021. Per source, Von stays. That's right, you heard it from himself. Von Miller is back with the Denver Broncos for the 2021 season. The Broncos will exercise that team option for Von Miller, something that's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks and months, really. It's a big cap hit. You see the number on your screen, $22.25 million. However, I want to make note of this. Denver can still restructure and rework that contract over time leading up to the season, and I'm sure that they will try to do so, but accepting the option nonetheless secures the fact that Von Miller will be in Denver for the 2021 season, returning after missing the 2021 season with that torn ankle ligament. And this is a big move, I think, because Von is just too important to Denver. You know, this has obviously been the face of the franchise, the face of the defense over the last 5-8 years or so since Peyton Manning left Denver. And now he's a key leader on that defense. I think people tend to forget, yes, he's old, yes, he's coming off that ankle injury, but the leadership aspect and the mentorship he brings to a defense that's getting younger and younger right now, I think is huge over hopefully the next few years, depending on whether they rework his contract. He's just been a huge part of the Broncos organization in his time in Denver. I mean, averaging a tackle for loss per game over the course of his career is pretty nuts. 106 sacks, obviously the Broncos' all-time sack leader, 26 forced fumbles in his career in Denver. He's been a huge player for the Broncos in his time here. And now with this linebacker core, you're starting to see it's coming together a little bit. We'll talk about A.J. Johnson during the Broncos breakdown, but Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, the duo is back, and hopefully both of them can stay healthy for the 2021 season. It feels like we've hardly ever seen both of them really benefiting off of each other and wrecking havoc in that pass rush. So both of them will be back. That middle linebacker role still a little bit to be decided over time. But as far as the pass rush is set with Malik Reed, maybe Ataochu comes back for 2021. But Von Miller is the big one back in 2021 for the Broncos. They're exercising that team option, which if they don't restructure right now, carries a pretty big cap hit. But as of now, he will be back in the orange and blue in 2021. So fill in the blank for me here. I want to get your predictions in for this season. Von Miller will get blank sacks in 2021. Get your votes in right now in the comments section. I want to go back and see what you guys are thinking. You know, I'll set it probably, double digit would be pretty nice. I'll go with 9.5, we'll say. Obviously, the emergence of Malik Reed, Dre'Mont Jones, Bradley Chubb, sure to take away some of those sacks. But nonetheless, I want to hear from you. How many sacks for Von Miller in 2021? All right, we're going to jump in now to some of the tender decisions that the Broncos made yesterday, starting with Phillip Lindsay. The Broncos placed the right of first refusal tender on Lindsay Monday, meaning that the Broncos can match any offer sheet that a team makes for Lindsay. He has the right to negotiate and sign offer sheets with other teams. However, Denver will not receive draft compensation in return if they lose Lindsay. Now, this is a little surprising to me, I think. And obviously, Lindsay didn't have his best season in Denver, struggled with injuries, lost some touches to Melvin Gordon down the stretch. But nonetheless, the fact that they didn't throw a second-round tender on him, at least, I think is surprising. They don't have a limit on any of them. I think they're sort of challenging Lindsay a little bit to try and see if he can get more money in the free agency market. So I'll be interested to see if he will after a 2020. Yes, he exploded in 2018, 2019, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. but 2020 was not his best season, 4.3 yards per carry. You see that average kind of dip across the 3 years in Denver and just 1 touchdown on the season. This running back group as a whole right now is a little bit uncertain. There's still a little bit of uncertainty around Melvin Gordon and that potential looming suspension from the NFL. Phillip Lindsay now, if he walks, all of a sudden you could be, staring down a bigger need as we enter the draft. The good news is there are a lot of draft options at running back position, but nonetheless, losing Lindsay would certainly shift your needs a little bit and make running back more of a focus, whether it's a day 2 pick, maybe finding a value signing in free agency. There's not really any options in the trade market, let's be real. So it seems like the draft would likely be their best bet if Phillip Lindsay chooses to leave the Broncos in free agency. Now, Tim Patrick will shift to, because he did receive a second-round tender from the Broncos. It's similar to Lindsay's, both obviously restricted free agents. However, this means that if a team signs an offer sheet with Patrick and the Broncos choose not to match it, that the Broncos would get a second-round pick in return. And it's kind of weird because maybe it's just me, but I kind of have a feeling that more people would be going after a player of Lindsay's caliber than a guy of Tim Patrick's caliber who really profiles as a wide receiver 3, He did break out in 2020 with Cortland Sutton out, 740 yards and 6 touchdowns. And maybe there will be a team out there in free agency that says, hey, maybe he could be our second wide receiver full time. But I'm just not quite sure that's the case. And so the fact that they put a second round tender on him as opposed to Lindsay, like I said, there's no limit on them. But, I'm okay with the second round tender for Patrick. But just the decision with Lindsay kind of bothers me. A.J. Johnson as well also received a second round tender from the Broncos. Again, that just means that if a team wants to sign an offer sheet, Denver gets a second-round pick in return. He was their leading tackler in 2020, really played well. And this one I'm not as surprised. This is a guy that I think next to Josie Jewell at least gives you 2 starters at middle linebacker. Whether they choose to upgrade that moving forward with a younger piece, maybe giving Justin Sternad an expanded role, we'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, Tim Patrick, first right of refusal tender. Phillip Lindsay, first right of refusal tender. Tim Patrick, A.J. Johnson, second-round tender. If you had to choose one of them, if you had to pick one to re-sign, who would it be? You can type your PL for Phillip Lindsay, your TP for Tim Patrick, or AJ for AJ Johnson. Get in the comments right now. If I had to pick one, honestly, just based off the quality of play and the needs that Denver has right now, I'd probably go AJ Johnson. I'd be okay with losing either of the offensive pieces, maybe both. But get your votes in nonetheless in the comments section, PL, TP, or AJ. It's been a hectic 24 hours, that's for sure. We're going to dive into some of these other moves that the Broncos have made, not just in this video, but throughout the offseason. Whether it's me or my guys, knocked the mic there a little bit there. Whether it's me, Tom Downey, Mitchell Renz, we're going to keep you posted here on the Broncos Breakdown all offseason long. You're not going to want to miss any videos that we do here on the channel, so be sure to go down and hit that big red button below this video and subscribe. If you're watching this on Facebook or somewhere else on Twitter, YouTube.com/Broncos TV is the place to go. And take that link, send it to some Broncos fans, any friends that you have. We want to keep growing this channel heading into the 2021 season, the NFL draft coming up. Tons of coverage there as well. But free agency, we're going to keep you posted all week long, wall-to-wall coverage, so be sure to subscribe today. All right, this one we've talked about before, but we'll kind of recap. Kareem Jackson will hit free agency. The Broncos have declined to exercise his club option for the 2021 season. And, I've said this time and time again on the show. It was a little bit less likely than Von Miller that he'd be back because he was worth that club option that Denver was going to pay him. And so in that sense, this was likely to happen. And it's not to say that it's not an easy decision. You'd want to keep Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson, one of the best safety duos in the league over the last few years. But he's been nothing but a pro in his time in Denver, and it's tough to let him go. A great player, one of the best, I'll say, at his position over the last few years. But it's a lot of money. Denver's got more needs to fill out, and so spreading that money across maybe 1 or 2 players is likely going to be the option. If Von Miller somehow takes that $22.25 million cap hit a lot of that money would be devoted to Von Miller. And so it's a tough decision to let Kareem Jackson walk. But now it leaves a hole at free safety, or strong safety, next to Justin Simmons, which leads me to my next question for you. Should Denver sign or draft a free agent safety? Now, as you look at the free agent market, some of these big names are already starting to come off the board. The draft prospects, there's some enticing ones, but they wouldn't be more towards day 2, maybe even day 3 if Bronco chooses to address it. So you can type your S for sign down below or type your D for draft. Now, my guy Mitchell Rentz talked about this yesterday, but I wanted to recap this real quick. Shelby Harris back with the Denver Broncos on a 3-year, $27 million deal, including 15 guaranteed, which is a decent amount, well worth the wait for Shelby Harris, who's really worked his way up in Denver, has become a more well-rounded defender in his time with the Broncos. I said it on Twitter. You can follow me at SamBrownCS. I love this deal for the Broncos. You see kind of the progression that Harris has made in his time in Denver. I mean, look at the pass breakups, first of all. He's become one of the best at batting the ball at the line of scrimmage. The tackles for loss also has been very consistent, and he's become better at penetrating the backfield and creating those opportunities for other players as well. So really like this deal for Denver. Shelby Harris back on a 3-year contract. And I think this front 3 might be set. Maybe add someone else at that nose tackle position with Mike Purcell to compete with them. I think maybe in the draft might be worth addressing. But you're going to be rolling out with Shelby Harris, Dre'Mont Jones. I think either DeMarcus Walker or Sylvester Williams. We'll see who Denver brings back there at the position. But either way, those are 2 very exciting guys. Shelby Harris, only 29 years old, and can still mentor Dre'Mont Jones as he works his way going into his 3rd NFL season. I like bringing Shelby Harris back. Smart move for Denver, and really keeps one of the leaders on that Broncos defense that's getting younger and younger every day. Some more Broncos free agency news on the Broncos Breakdown that came in on Monday. The Broncos have signed Ronald Darby, the former cornerback from the Washington football team, to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Now, this includes $19.5 million in guaranteed money. Darby's a solid player. Former 2nd-round pick, has dealt with a little bit of durability issues, but had a strong 2020 with the Washington football team. I think Ronald Darby's a solid signing. And do I love it at $30 million? Maybe not so much, with considering some of the other options that were out on the market, some of the more durable options perhaps on the market. But there's no doubt Ronald Darby helped his stock in 2020 by not only playing a solid season, but playing a full season, 16 games and 16 pass breakups. I think the interception stat is a little misleading because down the stretch, teams really started throwing away from him as a member of a Washington pass defense that was one of the better ones in the league last season. So Ronald Darby comes in and probably will slot in as that top cornerback for the Broncos. Things have still yet to be determined for Denver right now, but a 3-year deal for Ronald Darby, who now becomes CB1. And I think it works out well in a sense because it gives Bryce Callahan more time on the inside at nickel, where he's really best suited. Michael Ojemudia going into his 2nd season, as of now, is that starter at CB2. And yes, I think the Broncos still need to upgrade at corner, whether it's another free agent or in the draft. But at least you've got 3 guys right now you can roll out. Parnell Motley, Nate Hairston, Bassey got some late season reps and hopefully maybe get some development as well. But Ronald Darby was the lone free agent signing that the Denver Broncos made yesterday. 3 years, $30 million. And he's going to come in and hopefully bolster that secondary for the Broncos that now has a hole at strong safety as well and could still address that cornerback position as well. So we'll round it out with a question for you here. Do the Broncos need another corner? You can type your simple Y for yes or N for no. I think I'm going to see a lot of Y's in the comments. There's no doubt the Broncos probably need to address that, whether it's in the 1st round of this year's NFL draft, maybe even the 2nd, 3rd round, or adding another free agent. But get your votes in right now here in the comments section. Should the Broncos add another corner? All right, we're recapping everything. It's been a lot here at the Broncos Breakdown, and so I figured I'd run you back through everything that's happened. Obviously, Justin Simmons, the franchise tag, that's not new news, but it happened. Phillip Lindsay given the low-level right of first refusal tender. A.J. Johnson and Tim Patrick both get 2nd-round tenders. And then some of the team options. Von Miller, his option was exercised. He'll be back. Kareem Jackson, his option was declined. He probably will not. Shelby Harris re-signed with the Broncos on a 3-year, $27 million contract. And Ronald Darby, their lone free agent, signing 3 years, $30 million. So you've seen the whole rundown. I want to hear your grades for the Broncos free agency. A, B, C, D, or F. Get your votes in the comments right now. I'd probably give it, I think it's a solid B to start out right now. I think it can still improve. We'll see how they continue to address some of their needs and some of the players they bring back. But get your votes in right now, A, B, C, D, or F, and we'll see you on our next video.